here I am again. This time I'm in my classroom. Isn't terribly well decorated, as you can see, but I'm happy to be here. What else to do on a Friday during your free period but to shoot your webcast? I'm sure some of you actually do your lesson plans for the next week or correct papers, but this is what I'm doing today. I've been asked to talk a little bit more about my actual journey that got me here. I kind of glossed over to some extent, meaning to go back, but maybe not quite this soon, to what actually landed me in the position of being an unemployed educator. So to kind of give the background information, I've been an educator for 20 years, in the classroom for about 14 or 15, and then as an administrator. I began as a department chair for the World Language Department in the middle school where I taught, and that eventually grew into being in charge of the induction program for beginning teachers, as well as the department chair for the whole district we have about 19 schools. And then I got to be my next step up was to become the coordinator of professional learning for the district. I loved that job, and basically one of my main, aside from just the professional learning that happens during the school year, one of the things that I did was I ran the New Teacher Academy, which was basically a three-day conference for about 200 to 300 teachers, and there was a lot of pressure, but it was a lot of fun. At some point I realized that if I wanted to go further in the organization where I was, which I did, I love where I work, I love the district, I believe in the mission wholeheartedly. We are a district of magnet schools, not to be confused with a charter school. We're public schools, kids get in through a lottery. We can't expel, we have special ed kids. It's a regular school except that the kids get in here through lottery. I also say that, also the main advantage that we have is that the parents have to be at least semi-interested in their children's education in order to get into one of the magnet schools, because they have to go through an application process. I've definitely, there's so much competition right now out there. There's a lot of magnet schools in the Hartford area in Connecticut, and so we are definitely for the most part, just like every other magnet school, every other public school. We do have some very nice resources that we have gotten through grants. We do receive state aid, blah, 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 blah. Basically, I'm at a magnet school, and I'm trying real hard to justify the fact that it's a magnet school when I really don't need to. We are a public school. We can't expel kids. We have our special ed kids, and we are not a charter school. Enough said. So that's the organization in which I work. It's also a regional education service center, meaning we go out and we provide professional learning to all of the districts in Hartford County. So while I was at the central office, serving as the department chair and being in charge of the induction program, I also had the opportunity to go out to many different districts and work as a consultant. So, going back to if I wanted to advance in the company, if I wanted to advance in the organization, I believed that I needed to leave. I needed to leave and get the outside experience in other districts, grow in other districts before I could come back to this one. I think that when you are in one place for too long, not only do you yourself become a little complacent, but the role that you play in the organization becomes very stagnant. So I wanted to have the opportunity to go out, get some new experiences, spread my wings, and then come back. So I left the district and went to a smaller district and a little bit more suburban, significantly more suburban district, and I went there as the Director of Human Capital Development, which is a fantastic title. It looks amazing on a nameplate and on a business card. Basically what it meant was that I was in charge of professional learning for the entire district, certified and non-certified, and also helped oversee the evaluation process for all certified staff, administrators, and teachers. So loved that job. I would have stayed there for 20 years, and which made the bloody budget battle that eliminated my position all the more painful. I got to be the one who goes in to help teachers. whether they are willing participants, so they have come to me looking for professional learning experiences, and then it's up to me to find them the best match, to fund their growth. Some of the best conversations I ever had have been with teachers where I just sat down and said, what's next for you? How can I help you grow? And then when teachers were in trouble, when they had to have some kind of experience to make up for some kind of infraction, often that was, I'm not the one that had to sit down with them and tell them that. I was the one that got to help them complete it. So again, it was always the chief of staff was the bad cop and I was the good cop. And I love professional learning. I love andragogy, which is the study of adult learning. And so I was able to do my dream job for 2 years. And then the budget season came in. We got a 0% increase, meaning there's no way we can even meet our contractual obligations for the teachers. And so 2 administrative positions were eliminated. Me and another administrator, central office administrator, we came in on the same day and we left on the same day. So again, like I said, I can't say it strong enough. I was devastated, and in many ways. Especially, I didn't think it would take me so long to find another job. I thought that with this 2 years experience and the experience I had in my previous district, that people would be dying to hire me, that it would be no sweat. And I was totally wrong. And some of it was, I skipped over the building level administration. I was never an assistant principal, dean, or principal. I skipped over that and went to the central office as a curriculum specialist and then as the professional learning director. And I do think that that played against me. I do believe that people are familiar with the more traditional ladder to get to the central office, and not, I'm not saying that that's wrong. I think that you get a lot of different experiences as, obviously, an assistant principal and principal. However, in my opinion, the jobs I was applying for didn't necessarily require that. As a curriculum leader, you don't need to know the same things that you need to know as an operational manager or as a principal. Be that as it may, over the first summer, I applied for very select jobs. And again, there was a lot of hubris involved with my decisions as to what jobs I applied for. Come the fall, I was not employed. My severance had run out. And so I began looking at teaching positions. But I began looking too late. Now I'm in a shortage area. However, when I talk about the bloody budget battle that we had in my district where I got laid off, the whole state of Connecticut has been suffering horrible budget seasons. The state budget is a mess. There are cuts being made to education. The way that Connecticut works is there's a certain amount of cost sharing that hang on. All right, I'm back. I thought I was going to have an extra free period today, but alas, that's not the case. So, yeah, I'm a little bummed about that because I had my heart set on it, but that's all right. I'm in this business because I enjoy children, so that's all right. I'll have a half a class come back, which, as you well know, now what do? Right, I have half a class. I can't do anything new because it's actually less than half a class. Can't do anything new because I would just have to go over it again, and then I had to keep these kids occupied. And the ones who are coming are not necessarily the most studious of my kids. So anyway, I don't even remember where I was. I think I was talking about, the devastation and applying for teaching positions. And so I did get one position at a fairly urban district. So after that, I ended up having to have surgery on my foot. And so we're going to talk about that at some point too, about what it's like to have a physical injury that impacts your ability to work. Whether you are, I couldn't apply for teaching jobs at the time. There was no way I could do it. I couldn't walk. I couldn't stand. And so that kind of took me through the end of the year because certainly no one was hiring administrators. The notices for the applications for Sorry, I'm actually I'm planning in my head. That's so funny. Don't you do that? You're talking to somebody, but in reality, you're doing your lesson plans in your head. I'm back. I'm with you now. Just you. There are very few administrative positions being posted, and once you get past February, all of the postings are for the upcoming year, as opposed to finishing out the school year. By the time I was capable of working, which was around April, I to be honest, I chalked it up to there was no way I was going to get a job, whether it be teaching or administrating, for the last of the 2016-2017 school year. So I pretty much was unemployed again, and I did file for and I did receive unemployment benefits. A lot of people talk about the shame of having to go on the dole, as it were, but I never felt that way, because I paid in for 30 years, right? And that's exactly what it was for. It's to prevent absolute abject poverty to befall somebody when they hit a rough patch, and so I was happy to have it. So again, the summer goes by. I'm applying for administrative positions. My standards have changed. I am willing to take any administrative position. I applied for assistant principals, central office, and to no avail. I got a lot of interviews, which is even more frustrating, to go to all of these interviews, make it to that stage, and then not make it beyond that. Wondering what it was that happened during the interview. I was like, that's a real "they don't like me" moment. I got some feedback from some of the districts, and am happy to report that generally there were things like there was an internal candidate, or maybe someone had a STEM kind of theme to their school, or they wanted to focus on sciences, or they needed specific leadership in literacy, and so I didn't fit the bill. I wasn't a good fit there. So the beginning of the 2018-2019 school year comes. I had applied, that's when I actually started applying, was late August. I started applying for teaching positions. And there actually weren't a whole lot posted, because teaching in an area such as world language, we are cut a lot. When the budget gets ugly, they go for what are sometimes considered extravagances rather than the normal, the core 5 subject areas. So it wasn't until November that I got an interim position at a school, and it was supposed to be for the rest of the year. So I was pretty happy. Middle school Spanish. I was really enjoying myself. I had a great team. I was working with some fantastic people. I loved the kids. And then the person who went on leave came back, and I was out of work again. That one was really hard, because during this time I was even starting to think, you know what, I could do this again. I could be a teacher again. I could go back in the classroom. I was enjoying myself so much, and the thinking about, wow, I could, would it be a pay cut? Sure, but I would have my summers off, and I was loving what I was doing, and I felt good. I was doing something I was really good at. And then I lost it again. And at some point, I started writing this article or an essay or whatever, and I called it "I'm Indestructible," because somehow through it all, I certainly had my moments of depression, which we'll talk about in a future episode. But you know what? I never gave up. I mean, what were my options, right? And so I just kept looking, and even at the hardest times, I had to look forward, and I had to look to the next step. And as much as it got harder and harder to do, what choice did I have? I've had people say to me, I don't know how you've survived these last 2 years. And again, my response is, what choice do I have? So a lot of that lends the fodder for what's going to become of this webcast, because I think when we look at, if we wanted to make some broad themes, aside from really bad luck being one of them, I also think mindset is something that we want to talk about, and then the second one is self-care, right? We need, as teachers, we are always there for our kids. We are being pulled in a billion different directions. We have our obligations in school, which are incredibly intense. And then we have our obligations at home, which are incredibly intense. And then to our community, to our families, our extended families, or, teachers are overwhelmed, and teachers are not good at saying no or saying, I'm sorry, I can't. We have a tendency to say yes, 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 yes. Someone needs me. I'm going to be there. We have our little capes, our little teacher super capes going on all the time. So that's the story of how I got to where I am. And again, there's so many stories within the story that we will get to. If you'd like to share any kind of story with me, any kind of feedback for me, have you been unemployed? Have you struggled through trying to find another position after your position was eliminated? Let me know. You have a couple of ways you can contact me. The first one is through email at ldarcy@theeducatorsroom.com. That's ldarcy@theeducatorsroom.com. And the other one, I have Google Voice set up so you can give me a call, and that number is 860-245-8178. So I'd love to hear from you and incorporate your story into the webcast. You can be as anonymous as you would like to be. All right, thanks. See you next time.